Hello friends, welcome to my channel Nihira Techiees. This is the part 2 video of .NET Core 7.0 Web API tutorial. So in my part 1 video, we have covered the individual topics with a proper example. So in this video, we can see one of the real-time example, that is user handling and user role permission handling. Part of the user, we can start from user registration with proper validation and OTP verification. And the next one is user activation and deactivation. We are just changing the status of user. And the third one is reset password by validating password history. And the last one is forget password with OTP validation. So in this case, user will get one-time password. Once it is validated, user can directly change their password. So the second topic is role. So the first one is user role access assignment. So in this application, we have n number of menus. Okay. So based on the role, we can provide the access for each and every menu. At the same time, they don't have the permission for add, edit and delete. We are handling all the scenarios in this case. And the second one is get menu by user role access. This is very simple, one of the get method. Based on the user role, we are returning the menus. And the final one is check menu access by role. So in this case, we are just validating whether the particular menu having access for the role. Okay. So next, let me move on the implementation. I am going to cover all the topics one by one. First, let me take this user registration. So in my existing application, let me create one controller, API controller. We can use this empty template. So let me provide the name is user. And we can create one more controller that is for the user role. Okay, this is fine. And the next thing is database. We are using this SQL server. I have created some of the table also. So this is the first table, one of the master tables storing the menu information. It contains code and the name status of the menu. Okay. And the next one is OTP manager. So it will store the OTP for registration and forget password. And then this password manager. So this is for maintaining the password change history. And then this role. This is also one of the master table for storing the role information. Next, role permission. So this is one of the important tables. See the columns. So based on the role and menu, what are the functionalities they have access? That information we are storing in this role permission. And temp user. So this is one of the temporary table used for the user registration. So once the registration started, we are making entry in this temp user only. After successfully validated their OTP, so then only we are moving the same records into our table user. Okay. So this is all about the database using scaffold command. Already I have generated the models. So what are the table I have already created? I just generated the models. So I will include the scaffold command also in the description. You can use that. Okay. So first let me focus on this user controller. We can start from the user registration as I mentioned. So I'm going to create one interface. A user service. And we can create one more interface that is for the user role. Okay, that is fine. Next we can create the implementation class. So in this container side, this is just a class. One is user service and the next one is user role service. And then we can register both the interfaces in our program.cs file. Our interfaces, a user services, it's going to implement our user services. So the same way, a user role services, this is going to implement user role services. So we are getting some error. So let me implement here a user services. Okay. So see the error also got resolved. Next in this a user service interface. Let me define my function. So the first method is user registration. It's having one input, so let me create one model class. So here we can include some of the properties: public string name, then email, phone, password. Let me save this one. And user registration. Okay, this is my first method. And the second function is confirm registration. Once the user registration completed, they will get the user ID. So that is the first input. And the second one is username. And the final one is OTP. Next, let me move on to the implementation class. I'm just implementing both. Okay. And here we can create one constructor. And we can inject our database context. Okay, this is fine. Next, we have to implement this confirm register and also this user registration. So before that, let me go to our controller. So already we have created this user controller, and here also we can have one constructor. And let me inject our service. Next, we can create our action method. So the first one is one of the post method. Here we can call our service function. We have completed our first function. The same way, let me do for the second one. Confirm registration. So in this case, we will get one user ID, next username, OTP text. Confirm registration. We have to pass the parameters. Okay, so that is fine. Let me build this one. Okay, great. There is no build error. So first we can implement this user registration function. So the idea is once I'm having the data, I will make entry in this temp user. Okay. So this ID is the auto generated field, and this code is nothing but our username. Okay. So let me remove this one, and this is the asynchronous function. Okay. Next we can use the try catch black. If it is not equal to null, so here code is nothing, username, then email, password, and the phone number. Once I am having this data, we can use this object, save changes asynchronous. So once the registration is completed, we have to return the user ID. So that is the auto generated field. So what I'm going to do, let me declare one variable, user ID. Once the save is completed, we are just sending like this ID. Okay. So next in our API response, so in this result we can say this is pass, and in this message we can return our user ID. Okay, this is the integer, so we can convert this into string. So this is the first step, and the next thing is we have to make an entry in this our OTP table. So I'm going to create one private function. I would say update OTP. So this function having three parameters. So the first one is username, and the second one is OTP text, and the third one is OTP type. Table OTP manager. Okay, here also the ID is the auto generated field. So the first one is username. We have the username, and the second one is OTP text, and the expiration, add a minute, you can include 30 minutes, and the created date. So this is for the reference only, and OTP type. So we will get from the parameter itself. Okay. Okay, this is fine. So let me use this method in our exact function. So the parameters are username, right? So we can get it from the user registration object, and the second one is OTP text. So the OTP we are supposed to generate. Okay. So let me declare one variable. So we are just generating and passing to this function, and the type is the hardcode value. So this is register. For the optimization purpose, we can move this pass and register, both are in the constant class. We can have the reference instead of making the hardcode value. So I will do it in the later. So next we can generate the OTP. For that, let me create one more private function. It is just a random number. String random number. So we will get the 6-digit random number. Okay. So we can use it here. And once our OTP is created, make sure we have to intimate the user. So we can create one more private function. send OTP mail. So in this case, three informations are required. So the primary one is email, and the second one is OTP text, and the third one is just a username, or else just a name. That is more than enough. So these are the basic items. It's are fine. So if you want to include more items also, we can include. That's not a problem. So we are using this one. It's here. We will get the email, and again we will have this OTP text. Okay, and the username also there. For the implementation of this send OTP mail, I will do in the end of the video. Okay, so meanwhile we can verify OTP from the table itself. And in this error scenario, the result should be fail. So let me run this application and verify whether it is working or not. Okay, here we can see this user registration and confirmation. So we can use this user registration. Let me provide the details. And we can provide one password. So let me execute this one. So we are getting the response message is 1. That means our user ID is 1. So let me verify from the table. Okay. So we have the data. So let me check our OTP table also. So we have the 6-digit OTP also. Okay. And it's having the expiration time. Okay. So the next step is we have to validate this OTP and make sure we have to create the entry in our user table. So that we can do from our confirmation registration. And also one more thing, we have to include two validation in this user registration. One is for duplicate email checking and duplicate username checking, that I will do a little later. First let me focus on this confirm registration. Let me make this function also asynchronous. And here also the return type is same. Okay, this is fine. Here the first thing is we have to verify the one-time password. So let me create one more private function. The function name is validate OTP and the parameters are username and OTP text. Okay. Let me declare one variable. So initially we can provide the value as false. First we are checking this username and then OTP text. And one more condition, whether it is expired or not. Okay. Okay. If it is having the data, then it is valid. We can set this response as true. Okay. Okay, this is fine. We can use this function in our actual method. If it is invalid response, then we can say this fail. From this message, I'm just saying invalid OTP or expired. Okay. So in this past scenario, we can take the records from our temporary table. We have this user ID. User ID. Once we have this data, we have to make an entry in our table user. So the first field is username, that we can get it from the response itself. And the next one is name, so that we can get it from the temp data. And then password, next email, then phone number, then failed attempt 0 is active. So defaultly we can say it is active. Is logged, it's false. Role, so the default value we can provide a user. Okay. So once we have this data, we can make entry in our table user. Once it's done, we can update the status response. It is pass and also registered successfully. Okay. And one more thing. So whenever we are changing the password, make sure we have to update the password history. So again, let me create one more private function. I'm just copying this OTP. You can say update manager. So here the inputs are username and password. The username is fine and other values. ID is the auto-generated field, and then password we will get from the parameter. Modify date. This is for just a tracking purpose. We can give the current time value. That's it. So let me copy the same. I'm just adding it here. Okay, this is fine. Next, we can include the validations. So the first one is in this user registration. First, we can check duplicate username validation. So I'm just declaring one variable. So let me provide true. Okay. Here I'm just added like this. So if this is the scenario, so then is valid equal to false, and our response, it's fail, and then the message should be duplicate username. Okay, and the same way we can check for the email. It is duplicate email. Okay, okay, the validations are fine. So next let me run this application. First let me clear all the data. Again we can make one new registration. I'm just executing. See, we are getting the positive response. We have a entry in our temp user. Okay, so next we can confirm the registration. First one is user ID 1, and then username NT user. So we need to know our password. Basically we will get from the mail, and the OTP value is 087566. Okay, so I'm just added. First I'm providing one invalid one. Okay, I'm getting this invalid OTP or it is expired. Now I'm providing the valid one. See, pass and registered successfully. So if I'm checking in this table user, see I have the entry. Okay, at the same time this password manager. See, we have entry. So in this future, once we are updating the password, make sure we supposed to check the password history, whether it is used for the last 3 transactions. If it is there, we will block off the validation failure. Okay. So now we successfully completed this user registration and confirm registration. So next we can work for the reset password. So let me start the changes from our interface. Reset password. And the inputs are username, then old password, next new password. Okay, let me implement this interface. And we can make this function as the asynchronous one. Here also we can use the same API response. Here we can first validate using our old password. And we are checking whether it is the active one. If it is having the value, now it is validated. So we can update our new password, okay? And in this response point of view, this is the failure scenario. So in this success scenario, we can say it is password changed. So this is all about the functionality, but I have to include one validation. So whenever I'm changing the password, make sure I have to check the password history also. So we can create one more private function for validating the password history. So there are two inputs. One is username and another one is the new password. Change the return type also. Next, okay, it should be username. Okay, and order by descending based on the modified date. We are checking last three entries. Okay, so the idea is very simple. We are checking the last three records for the particular user. So next, if it is having this entry, now we are checking the current password. Okay, if it is having any record, we can mark this response into true. So next we can use this function in our reset password. So in this past scenario, I would say I'm just checking like if it is true, then we have to show the error message. So in this else scenario only, we are updating this password. Okay. We have completed this method. So let me add the reference in our controller side. After this confirm registration, I'm just adding reset password. Okay. And it is having three inputs. The first one is username, and the second one is old password, and the third one is for the better optimization we can create the separate models instead of passing three parameters. And if you feel we are using this password directly, it is not a safe, obviously we can encrypt and we can use it. Okay, so in this reset password, okay, that's more than fine. So let me run and verify. So the username is nt user and our old password is test1. Let me provide the new password is test2. So we got a response is password changed. So now if I'm checking this password manager, oh, it's having only one entry. Okay, but it is changed here. So we can confirm this one. I'm just validated and updated the password, and we have to call one more function here. Update password manager. And we need to pass this username and a new password. Okay, now it is fine. So now it is fine. I am trying once again. Old password test1. I am trying to provide the new password is test2. Okay, it is saying failed to validate the old password because already it is changed. So the old password is test2. The new password we can give as test3. Okay, it is changed successfully. So we updated in our user table and we have entry in our password manager. Okay. So next time changing the password once again. So the old password should be test3. So if I provide our new password is test1. See, we are getting don't use the same password that used in the last three transaction because so in this password manager it's already there. If I am providing test2, now it will accept. It is changed. So now if I'm trying to update this test1 also, it won't accept. So let me show you. It's not accepting. I'm just providing test4. Now it is accepted. So again, if I'm providing test1, then it will accept. So the reason is, if you are checking in this password manager, so it will always check the last three entries. So in this last transaction, it is checked this much only. Okay. So there is no test1. So that's why it is allowed for updating this test1. Okay. So this is all about the reset password. So next we can work for the forget password. So in this scenario, user may don't know the old password. So they have to provide their username for generating the OTP. They have to validate their OTP. If it is fine, they can change their password. Okay. So that is a plan. So let me write the function from our interface. This forget password. It's having only one parameter, that is our username for generating the OTP. And the second function, update password. So the inputs are username and then password, and the final one is OTP text. Okay, there are two functions. So let me implement both here. So let me mark this into public. So in this case, first we are checking whether the username is valid or not. If everything is fine, we have to generate the OTP. And we have to update our OTP in our table. So the inputs are username and the OTP text. And one more parameter, that is the OTP type. So we can provide the hardcode value. And once it is updated, we have to send a mail to the user. Send OTP mail. So the inputs are user email. So we can get it from the user object. And the next one is password, not a password, OTP text. So that we generated now. And the final one is name, that also we can get it from the user object. Okay. If all went fine, we can set the response. So the text we can provide OTP send. If there is no data, we can say this is failed and also it is the invalid user. Okay, and the next step is we have to update this password. So here also the first step is we have to validate our OTP. So already we have a function. So in this validate OTP, we have to pass this username and also the OTP text. If all set, we can move further. So in this else scenario, we can say this is the invalid OTP. Okay. Once the OTP validation is completed, we have to update this password. Before that, we have to validate the password history. So already we have a function. If it is available in our history, then again we have to show the error message. So instead of typing, we can use the same text. So in this else scenario, we can update our password. Password changed. So next we can create the relevant action method in our controller. So the first one is forget password, and the method name is forget password. It is having only one parameter, that is the username, and once it is completed, need to update the password. So in this case, username, then password, OTP text. Okay, so we can run and verify. First in this forget password, if I am giving like admin, actually we don't have any username like that. So it is checking and it is the invalid user. So next I am using the exact one, end user. It is saying OTP send. So we can verify our OTP and also update the password. So the username is end user and the password is, I supposed to use test4. Okay. And in this OTP, we will have this forget password OTP. Again providing the invalid OTP. Okay. So first we are getting this OTP, invalid OTP message. After that, checking the password history, it is failed. So let me provide testify. Now it is updated. You can see in our table user and also our password manager. Oh, why it is not added in our password manager? Yeah, again that is the problem. I just updated the password. Make sure I have to call the one more function. Okay. So if I'm executing, obviously it will work. Okay. So now in this user point of view, we almost covered. Finally, there are two functions are missing. So let me cover both are quickly. One is changing the user role and another one is the changing user status. Update status. So we have this username and also the status. User status. And the another one is update role. So why I'm creating these functions means I'm planning to create the separate UI in Angular and React application. For that time, I'm going to use the same API, okay? So that's what I'm doing all the methods. So this one actually not going to take much time. First, we are checking this user, whether it is available or not. So then this is the active user. So in this else scenario, we are setting this response. This is the invalid user. I would say status changed. Okay, it should be like this because we are assigning the value. So we can apply the same concept for our update role also. So here instead of this is active, we are updating this role and the value also user role. So okay, this is fine, and we can move on the controller side. So the first one is update status. And here we have to pass the role. Okay, this is fine. Let me verify both the functions. So the first one is changing the status. End user provided false. Okay, it is saying user status changed, and if you are verifying from the table user, the status is changed. So now I'm trying to change this user role. We can provide admin. So it's saying invalid user. The reason is it is in the inactive mode. So let me make this into active. So now if I'm trying to change the role, see, oh, again we are getting same. Okay, the active status is not reflected. There is one logic mistake. Okay, updating the status time, we cannot check this active status. So let me make this into active. Okay, it is changed. So if I'm checking now, the status is changed. So now if I'm trying to update the role means, obviously it will change. Okay, user role is changed. See, the admin is updated. So next we can work for the user role. So as usual, first we can start from our interface side. So the first function is assign user role permission. So the data we supposed to pass in the list format, okay? Role permission. So let me implement this interface. So in this container, and we can make this into a public asynchronous method, and creating one constructor, and need to inject our database context. For this action, we are going to use this table role permission. Here this ID is the auto-generated field, user role, and a menu. For example, the particular role may have access for n number of menus. Okay, even in this menu also they may have just a view permission or a view and add, edit, delete. So the functionality point of view, we are maintaining the permission level. Okay, so let's start the implementation. First I'm checking this parameter have the data. If it is else, we can directly say this is the failure scenario. Sorry, this is the failure. Please proceed with minimum on record. So here one more thing, we are handling list of records. Okay, if one of the record got failed, make sure we have to revert all the records. So I'm going to use the commit and rollback logic. So before that, let me include this try and catch. So we can move everything here. Next, we can begin the transaction. Here I'm just generating the for loop. Okay, this is fine. So next, what I'm going to do, I'm checking in this table whether it is having any data. We can check the combination of role and menu. Okay. If it is having the data, then it is the update scenario. Okay. Have you So the same way we have to update all the permissions. Okay. And in this else scenario, we have to create the new entry because we are getting the input as the table role permission only. Okay. And let me declare one more variable. So initially it should be 0. So whenever I'm processing any of the record, it is updated. So finally, once this for each is completed, we are going to check count equal to process count. Okay. If it is fine, I'm going to commit this one. And in this else scenario, we can just roll back. Okay. And in this response also, the first one is pass, saved successfully. Next one we can just say failed. Okay. So next let me move on the controller side. So here also the first thing is we have to create the constructor and we can inject our user role service interface. Next let me create the action method. So let me copy from our existing one instead of typing. I would say assign permission or else assign role permission. So the input data should be role permission, and in this user role it's having only one function I believe, that is assign role permission. Okay, so let me run this one and verify. Okay, so the first one is user role. So let me provide admin and menu code. We can use invoice and it is having complete access. Okay, and this ID is not needed anyway. This is the auto generated field, and for the same user role I am adding this customer. So the customer also having the complete access. So we have some master tables menu. Okay, customer dashboard invoice product. Maybe we can use this user. So admin always have the complete access. So let me execute this one. Okay, so look like we got the success response. And if I'm checking in this table, It's having three entry. Now if I'm trying to add one more menu, product. Now see, it's the new record also, it's included. Okay. So the same way I'm going to apply for another one, a role. Instead of the admin, let me provide a user. Okay. So this user role have this view access, add, they don't have the edit access, also the delete access. Okay. And in this customer point of view, they have the complete access. Again, the role should be user. So in this user menu, they don't have the access. Okay. We can remove completely. So in this product also, they have the complete access except this delete. For the user menu, have this much access. So in case in this customer also, if you feel no need to give this delete access, just execute this one. Okay. So this is all about the user role access assignment. So using this data, once the user is logged in using this user role, we will get what are the menus they have the access. So based on that, dynamically we can generate our menu. And one more thing, once they are in the particular menu, based on this user role and menu code permission, we will know whether the user have this view access or add, delete and edit. So based on that, we can apply the complete restriction in our UA application. For doing these two activities, I'm going to create the separate actions. So before that, I'm going to create two get methods for returning our master record. One is for menu and another one is the role. So again, we can start from our service side. Get all roles. Remove the parameters, it's not needed. So in this user role services, so let me mark both are the asynchronous method. So here we can directly return. Okay. So the same way for this role. So next in our controller side. So as I mentioned, this is the get method. Get all roles. It don't have any parameters and just a get method. Get all roles. If data double equal to null, So in this else scenario, we will return the exact data. Okay. So the same thing applicable for our get all menus. So let me run this application and verify. One is returning all the roles. Okay. See, admin, salesman, user. And the next one is menu. So customer dashboard, invoice, product and reports. Okay, all looks good. Next, I am going to return all the menus based on the user role permissions. For doing this one, I am going to create one new model. We can provide the name is application menu. So we are just returning the menu information. So it's having just true properties. Okay. And the next one is name. So let me go to our service side. I'm in the interface. So in this case, we are returning list of menus. Get all menu by role. So the parameter is user role. So let me implement this one. First we can make this function as the asynchronous one. And declaring one menu list. And then we can get the exact data from our table. So in this role permissions table, we will have only the menu code, but actually we have to get the exact menu name. So that's what we are joining with our master table menu. We can generate the for loop. Okay. Okay, now this is fine. So finally, we can move on to the controller side. So again, this one also a get method. So get all menus by role. And it is having one parameter. user role. Okay, so let me run and verify. So here if I'm providing admin, so it is returning what are the menus belongs to this admin. Okay, so in case if I'm provide a user, so there are three records. So if I'm providing some other values, so I'm getting just empty array. Okay, so next we have one more function. We will pass user role and menu code. Based on that, we will get the particular user have access for what are the functionalities, whether it is view or add, edit and delete. Okay, so let me go to my application once again. Get menu permission by role. So here the inputs are role and menu code, and the return type is single object only. And this app menu class have just two fields, code and name. But in our case, we have to maintain four more fields. So let me create a new model class. We can provide the name is menu permission. So in this case also, we will have this code and name. Additionally, we need to add four more fields and additional four properties that we can take it from our model. Okay, now it is fine. So let me implement this one. So let me mark this into asynchronous function, and it will return the single object only, that is menu permission. So in this case, we can directly get the data from this table permissions. And we are checking this null condition. If it is having the data, we can assign into our exact class. Okay. Okay, this is fine. Let me create the next. We can move on the controller side. Get menu permission by role. Okay. And there are two inputs. One is the user role, and another one is menu code. Okay. Let me verify. So I'm providing role as admin. The menu code is invoice. See the response. So the name is actually not needed. If it is needed, we can have the inner join with our master table. So these are the needed information. Okay, for this invoice we will have this much of access, and if I'm choosing the role as user, user also have the access, but they don't have access for this edit and delete. Okay, so this is the way our API will work. So now we have completed this user handling. We started from the user registration and confirm registration, reset password and forget password, and updating password status and user role. So in this user role point of view, assigning user role permissions, get all the roles, get all the menus, get all menu by role, and based on the permission, we are returning the individual function access level. So now we are in the end of the video. Still, if you have any doubts or clarification, please post in the comment box, and also please don't forget to subscribe my channel. So in my upcoming videos, I'm planning to create the UI for this all the functionalities in Angular and also the React.js. So please stay tuned for my future videos. Thank you. Thanks for watching.